What's going on, guys? I hope you're having a great day out there today, guys. Today's video is going to kind of be a little secondary installment on the video I did a little while back on kind of like the top 5 new mistakes. And a lot of you guys dropped some great comments down on the video, on that video, and kind of brought up some really good points and some other things that maybe if you're just getting into the hobby and new to it and don't know, a lot about the batteries, connectors, and tools, and so on, and some of the common things that break on cars and very easy ways to fix them. That's what this video is going to kind of be about. We're going to kind of work through some different stuff and see what other good stuff we can find to help you guys along in your journey starting out in the hobby. So, guys, we're going to go through some of the stuff, so stay tuned, everybody. All right, guys, so number one we're going to talk about here, and I don't remember who it was in the comments that brought this up, but you know who you are, and thank you. We're talking about batteries. Whenever you go into the hobby shop or wherever and purchase your first car, of course you need a battery and a charger, right? Well, a lot of times what they have on hand and what maybe some hobby shops are required to sell or push, a lot of times, say you're going and buying your first Arma. This goes for also Traxxas, but we'll get into that in a separate piece here. But you go in and buy your first Arma, you pick out a 3S car, and automatically they're like, here, we have these Spectrum batteries and a Spectrum charger. And the batteries are really expensive. I mean, Spectrum batteries are not cheap. Now, there are a few tiny benefits with the smart batteries. And we'll go over that also here too. But they automatically want to sell you the Spectrum batteries and the chargers, which are about double the price of what you could find a 3S lipo on Amazon or eBay or something like that. But they always want to kind of go towards the Spectrum, and I see a certain aspect on why, because if you're new to it also, they're trying to sell the safety features of the smart battery, which I understand because, they will do an automatic discharge over a certain period of time. And plus they have this funny little third pin in here that also shows you your battery life with the smart technology with your controller and stuff. But if you aren't looking for that technology and not really concerned about that, you can certainly find 3S lipos a lot cheaper on Amazon and eBay and some other different companies online. But another question that everybody see, a lot of people always asking is, well, I have this. This is what's on my Arma, is this IC5. Is anything else going to work with this? Yes. Your EC5 connector, which is on tons of batteries. You can just look them up on any site, type in, EC5 3S lipo, and they're going to most likely come with this because this is what will come on most of the Spectrum batteries. And this will work just fine. Does not change anything, does not hurt, hinder, or cause any safety changes to it. So these two are compatible with each other perfectly fine, so you don't have to just have a battery with this kind of connector. So that's the first part. We're also going to talk about here in a moment on Traxxas batteries, but let's get into something else here. So let's say you got a couple cars. This is going to kind of get into changing out your connectors, and your local hobby shops and stuff can also switch these out for you. Say that your car came with like maybe an XT60 or an XT90 or whatever it might be, but all you have are, EC5 connectors or vice versa. You can go ahead, cut these things off your ESC. You want to usually try and cut them close to your connectors so you still got some decent battery link to it. And your local hobby shop, you're like, hey, all I have are XT90 batteries. Let them cut that off. Have them cut it off. If you're not comfortable soldering, if you haven't gotten into the soldering thing too much, let them cut it off, switch it over. It'll make it more convenient. That way you can use all your different batteries on all your cars. Like I've done with all of mine, I have the EC5s on everything. Now, a lot of my cars still have the IC5 connectors on ESCs, but like I said, they work just, they're compatible. They go right together, so it's not a big deal. But don't let the connector on the ESC hinder what batteries you get or, not making it compatible to work across all of your different cars or batteries because they're easy enough to take on and off. And if you want to switch it back someday, you can go ahead and do that. So definitely a great thing I would have known because whenever I first started getting the batteries, getting back into stuff, they had this on there. I thought I had to have a Spectrum, and I bought a Spectrum battery, but I wasn't happy with the battery, so I started looking around, and sure enough, all these are compatible with each other, the EC5 and the IC5, so just keep that in mind, guys. Another quick little thing we're going to go over here is connector preference. Some guys love the XT90s, the XT60s, and stuff like that, and it depends on what car they're running on. I have obviously switched everything over to the EC5s, or the IC5, whatever you want to call it, for two reasons. Number one, these batteries with these connectors are very easy to get a hold of across, anywhere you look pretty much. Also, compared to the XT90s, at least for me, now this might not go for all you guys, and I'm not saying it does, but I had a lot more problems with overheating issues and the connections just plain staying together. And I found that the EC5 seemed to work the best, hold up the longest, and have the least amount of problems. Now, that's just been with my experience, what I've had across my cars, but that's why I've changed everything over. I mean, I've got tons of batteries that came with different connectors, and I've just cut them off, soldered on my IC5s. Like, this is an instance here. This is an actual Arma one that came off of, I guess, an Arma battery, but I hooked it up to my Huvo battery here for my 3S for on the Infraction 3S. But you can switch them around. But anyway, that's why I run EC5s. I just had the best luck with them so far. Now, we're going to talk about one thing with the EC5s, and after a while, you will notice the connector starts sliding on and off easier, and it's just not getting a great connection. All the connectors kind of have that life where the connectors in there and the brass starts getting pushed in, and it just doesn't have that tightness. What I do is usually take like my 2.5, depending on the connector, like a 2.5 millimeter, one of my nut drivers, and stick it inside the hole there, and you just basically spread all those pins open a little bit, and it gives it back to, nice, tight, snug fit again, and they've been holding up great, because this is one of my males, and as you can see, I mean, they got a nice tension still to that thing, and that's what you're looking for. You don't want it to just slide on and off real easy, because that means it doesn't have a good connection. Now, since we're on the subject of batteries here, this goes the same way for the Traxxas. All the Traxxas cars come with that. On the top of my head, I don't even remember what connector it is because I've never honestly used it. But all the Traxxas cars come with their little connector, and every one of the cars, I've just cut that thing off of there and soldered on an EC5 and been done with it. Because also, that connector makes it obviously more proprietary for you to buy a Traxxas battery, which are extremely expensive. And honestly, I haven't had a ton of experience, but I've known a lot of guys and talked to a lot of guys that do run them, and they're not very good batteries. They don't hold up very well. They don't pack much of a punch. Maybe some of you guys have had great luck with them. Everybody's experiences are different again, but I won't run a connector that's kind of proprietary to a certain car because I want to be able to have all my batteries be able to go on to any one of my cars. So same thing goes with the Traxxas. You go pick up a new X-Max, and you got all EC5 connectors at home or XT90s, have the hobby shop cut that thing off of there, put on whatever connector you have for your car. And that way you don't have to go buy a special set of batteries for that thing just to run your X-Max, because that's just baloney. I mean, the fact that there's different connectors, I mean, I get everybody has different connectors depending on what they thought. Everybody's kind of come up with their own little ways of doing their cars. But anyway, the EC5s are a great connector. Also, the XT90s, a lot of guys really love those things. But, whatever you want to use, just get rid of those proprietary plugs. That way you don't have to spend all the extra money on those X-Max batteries where you can go find, a new Ovonic or whatever battery you want to get for half the price. And frankly, better quality. So just keep that in mind whenever you're out there purchasing a car, that you don't have to stick with that battery. You can cut that thing off and use whatever you want. I know I brought this up many times, but if you're new to the hobby and you are going to work on your own cars, don't go and buy, a cheap set of tools. I'm just telling you, because you're going to save yourself a lot of hassles. Again, get yourself a good set of tools. I know it seems like a lot of money for some drivers, but, like I have all the MIP tool sets, and these things they save you so much aggravation with taking out screws and tight ones, with not stripping them out. Then you're having to drill them out, then it just turns into a headache. So right off the bat, make sure you get yourself some good tools. A couple other little things I wanted to go over is if you are going to be working on your own car, and the kind of the necessity stuff that you got to have whenever you're tearing these things apart and putting them back together. Number one, some Loctite, at least some blue Loctite. If you were putting any screw into aluminum on your car, if it's not going into plastic, put a couple drops of Loctite on any of the screws. Save yourself a lot of headaches of that stuff not backing out and falling off and causing your bash to end a little early. Another thing, and I'm going to say this, it goes across whether you're a basher or a speed runner, but you can pick up these temperature guns for, I think, 10, 15, 20 bucks, depending on the quality you want. But it's nice to kind of keep track of the temperatures on your ESC and your motor to make sure you're not geared too high and you're going to burn that motor up and cause way too much heat. So it's kind of good to have one of these to be able to check your temps, especially on those hotter days. Number three, make sure you got some super glue, because there's going to be little things breaking, tires coming undone, coming off the bead. Make sure get yourself some good super glue. I've been using this stuff. It was Model Expo, it was MaxiCure. This stuff works awesome. I think Rich Duperbash was the one that told me about this stuff, and it's been some great glue. Really love this stuff. Holds the tires excellent. Next thing, if you're going to get into obviously like pulling your differentials out and stuff like that, needing to re-grease it, get yourself some good grease. This Lucas, the red and tacky grease, I'm sure tons of you guys all use the same stuff. This stuff works great. It sticks in there nicely, holds up well. It's been probably the best grease that I found so far. I tried many different things with marine greases and all kinds of different stuff, but the red and tacky definitely works the best, at least for me. Now, we're going to specifically talk about this repair just because I see it constantly all over different social media pages and different RC sites of people having this problem. You know, they go out and get themselves a new Creighton or whatever, rolling the thing backwards, getting trigger happy, and of course, snapping off the wing. Wing's gone, broken off, but yet you got two screws that are sitting flush with the back of your shock tower, right? How am I going to get a hold of those things? Well, it's actually a really easy way, guys. Go ahead, take off your other screws, undo your links, your shocks, pull the whole entire shock tower off. There's only a few screws holding it on, really easy to do. And once you pull that off of there, you will now have a tiny bit of that screw, basically the thickness of your shock tower sticking out of your bulkhead. And you can grab a hold of those things with a pair of, vice grips, a little tiny pair of vice grips or pliers, and wind that screw out. See this happening constantly, and people showing, well, how am I supposed to get this out now? It's like flush with my aluminum. Well, just take your shock tower out because that screw is connected to your bulkhead, and you can pop that thing out real easily. Trying to think if there's anything else important. Again, something I know I've covered in the past, but charge your batteries inside of something fireproof, like an ammo can or something like that. Just make sure you do not leave those batteries just charging, sitting on your table. Any of you guys that are old to the channel know what all happened here a couple of years ago. Anytime I leave for work, because sometimes my trips involve, a day to 5 days, I get all mine in battery and storage mode, but I also keep them inside of one of these fireproof safes. This thing was only, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks on Amazon, as you can see. But the fireproof safe, I mounted to the wall, kept it away from far enough from the ceiling and the floor and stuff, but everything will be contained. If there is a fire for some reason or a battery decides to short, it's all contained in there. So guys, that honestly, out of everything you could say about what to do, what not to do in this hobby, the number one thing is make sure you know how to use your charger and use lipo safety. Make sure you keep those things in something sealed. Not sealed, but inside something fireproof when charging them. And when you're not charging them or using them, keeping them also inside of something fireproof and safe that's going to contain possible lipo fire. Another thing, make sure you save every screw, because those screws come in handy. I got this giant tub that I just keep filling up with all kinds of spares and extra screws from new kits and old stuff. That's great, because when you lose something, break something, 99.9% of the time, I can find a screw I need in this container. All right, guys, well, I don't want to keep you guys too long here. Just kind of wanted to go over a few other things. Like I said, you guys in the comments are the ones that inspired me kind of to do this video, because honestly, the one on the batteries was the biggest point of this, is that, too many times people think they have to buy that really expensive battery to go with that car, and it's just not the truth. You can find those batteries all over the place. Like I said, I buy a ton of stuff off of Amazon, eBay, and Jenny's RC. I get tons of my parts or batteries and stuff like that all off of those three sites mainly. Just kind of my go-tos, I guess. But, you can definitely pick up your batteries and extra batteries and all that stuff way cheaper on there. And you don't have to go with those expensive batteries that they try to sell you with the car, because honestly, a lot of times the batteries aren't that good, and, they're just overpriced. One thing we did forget to cover was some of the benefits, I guess, of the IC5 and why many hobby shops try to push the IC5. Like I said, the IC5s, they do have the smart batteries. If you have them charged up and you have them sitting around for a while and you're not using them, they're supposed to, discharge basically down to a safe level, kind of like a storage mode, for what I've been told. I don't really use them too much, but that's what I've come to learn about them. Also, like I said, they have that extra wire in there to give you data on your controller, because many of the Spectrum controllers have a little meter on them that'll tell you how much battery life you got left. But honestly, I don't know. I've never really found that useful. I run a car till it's dead and then charge the battery back up again. But anyway, guys, I think that's about it. We're going to make this video shorter here and call it a day. Nice rainy day, Sunday here, so just kind of do a little bit of shop time here and working on a few things But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope some of this information was useful to you guys out there. But that's going to do it. So until next time, y'all be safe. Be careful out there. Peace out, everybody.